All right. I think we're live now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to UPA podcast number 3. Really excited. It seems like these are just clicking away now. I just want to tell everybody that's watching and listening, we're going to have Apple podcast up pretty soon. It's just one of those things where we're doing this on our own time, and we're trying to get a lot of things done in our own work lives and stuff like that. But we're excited. We want to get that out to you guys as far as the Apple podcast, because that's something that you guys can listen to, you guys and gals out there that can listen to us and listen to the guests that we have on. We're the United Pool Association, and this is our podcast. And we have members in 5 states, 1,800 members roughly in 5 states: California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and Florida. I actually run a chapter in North Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona, chapter 12. Been actually in IPSA for a long time and came over to UPA about a year ago, a little longer than that, and just happy to do this. Steve and I became good friends, and this is something that we set out to do. And we just want to let everybody know kind of what we're about, why we're doing this. We want to bring people from every corner of the industry along each week, and bring people on that actually are current, maybe doing something new, whether they're with a vendor or they're repping a company or something like that, and they have a new product or new chemical or something like that we can offer everyone out there kind of an inside look. Steve Homer is my co-host. He's in Newport Beach. I'll hand it over to him.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that good intro. I'm Steve Homer, Vice President of UPA. I've been in the business forever. I won't go through that every time. It gets a little monotonous. But I want to thank Joe for all the work he does in this podcast. It is a time consuming, and since he's a lot younger and a lot sharper than I am, I don't know that I can do it. So I want to thank Joe. I probably really want to thank Joe's awesome wife, Sue. I mean, they run 2 businesses. They got 3 kids, and without Sue's support, I don't know that Joe would be able to do this stuff. So thank you to Sue. Now, given that, we got one of my favorite people on today. We have the UPA insurance broker on, Sean Reardon. Sean came to us, my daughter's cat's over there meowing, and the son of a bitch won't shut up.
But this is eating time.
I guess so. I should have fed him. But at any rate, he'll have to live. Any rate, Sean is our insurance broker. Sean came to us about 3 years ago. We had a great guy who was our broker for probably 15 years, the great Ron Carlson, and he had a stroke and went down, and we lost Ron, and we were very missed that guy terribly. But Sean came into his shoes and took over and has done an outstanding job. I mean, far beyond any expectations we ever could have had. Sean has really done it. So at any rate, good morning, Sean.
Oh, thank you, Steve. No, thank you. And to warn your listeners, usually when somebody says one of their favorite people and they mention the insurance broker, it's
yeah, I got a boring life, don't I?
No, but I appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, you guys.
That's great. Well, we're gonna talk a little insurance today, but Sean has a great knack of making it interesting, like a lot of guys can't. So pretty much I think we're going to go over the basic idea of insurance and get stuff squared in people's heads on how insurance works and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to take it away, Sean, give us kind of an overview, what insurance is and why we need it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of, insurance is one of these things that, people don't like to think about it, but it's truly one of these things that's been around forever. I mean, I guess we're all sort of born with survival instinct. People just want to avoid risk. And, it's happened, the dawn of time. People don't want to starve. They don't want to lose their houses. And so, in the early days, people created these sort of community, arrangements where, neighbors would help rebuild each other's houses, really unsophisticated stuff. And really it all boiled down to people just want to protect their crap, protect their stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, and you think about just over time, I mean, everything has changed. I mean, everything's become more complicated. There's a bunch of stuff you got to worry about, but even those simple times, you think about, even the basic ways, the ancient times they used to handle this stuff. We still have that stuff happening now. You think about a perfect example is our guys, think about your chapters, Joe, those guys who have route coverage, it's a perfect simplistic example of how people don't like risk and they try and spread it out, and, so you're covering guys in case they get sick. It's a real sort of unsophisticated way to do this. And nowadays, unfortunately, you've got the advent of all the, litigious climate we're in. You've got just a bunch of different exposure, cats biting you, lots of things that could come up that it's really complicated everything. And so, really, in the end, it boils down to people have stuff, people have worries, they want to protect it, and so you have this risk transfer mechanism where you basically buy an insurance policy to basically transfer some of this stuff away. And, the importance is pretty clear. If you think about it, there's the obvious stuff, there's, you're just legally compelled to do it. Think about your auto insurance, you think about, for those of us that have employees, the workers' compensation system in place, there's stuff that you just have to do it. Otherwise you're gonna get in trouble, and now there's the other stuff that you gotta kind of think about. Everybody's lives are a little bit different. People have homes. Some people don't have homes. People have trucks. They have whatever the case. They got stuff, and they want to protect it. And so, I don't know. I guess I would argue that unfortunately, we're sort of a society that I think is made up of a lot of people that make a lot of poor decisions. So, there's situations where, people probably should insure a lot more than they probably do. There's a sliver of us that I think do a good job of that, but a lot of us need a little help, and you think about it, the government tends to step in. I don't want to turn this into a political thing, but, you've got systems in place now that, think of Social Security, it's a perfect example. We just don't save well. We don't do a lot well as a society. And so government steps in and says, you got to do this. And, you got to, so they come up with their own insurance mechanism to protect us as a whole. But the reality is we're all grown adults, especially, I've been really impressed with the group that we've got at the UPA in the sense that, these are people who don't quote me, 95% of them, sole proprietors, thinking about stuff, join this organization, recognize the fact that this insurance is important. There's, one accident is going to basically jeopardize my livelihood, jeopardize my family's livelihood. So I think an adult step to take that, I'm really, really impressed with the membership here. Cause I'll tell you, I've got other clients that, high revenue clients that, are fighting a lot of times going, well, I don't know if I need to pay the 0.2% of my revenue on this, which is a significant exposure that could put their business out. So we've got a very, I think, sophisticated group, which I think is very impressive. So.
Yeah. Let me cut in real quick if it's okay. No, I'm glad you mentioned a lot of the stuff and kind of brought insurance, the picture of insurance. That was really well said, by the way. If there's any IPSA guys listen, Sean is like our Ray Arusti. So just wanted to kind of, that's the level of kind of now. It's not just some guy from our brokerage joining us for the day. He's the guy. So, but I also wanted to say, you touched on the fact that, I started in teen, I've had at least one of the things is you always fear even having a claim. As I've gotten older, I'm just so much more happy that I have the insurance. So, because I was always like, oh my gosh, if I have to file a claim, I was so like worried about it. But now and even to the young people out there that are listening to us, it's better than not having insurance. It's like, there's guys that, try to like ride the dragon, if you will, and try to skate danger and, oh, I don't need insurance. Well, when the time comes when you do, you're going to be glad you had it. And maybe you paid nothing out of pocket because you had it. Hopefully you don't lose your insurance because you ended up using it. But at the same time, as I've gotten older, I feel better about having it and just knowing that it's there. I'm sure, Steve, you feel the same way, and I think you did a great job of explaining that, Sean. So thanks.
Yeah, it's funny with insurance. Guys do get a little afraid of having a claim, and they get nervous about it. And you shouldn't be nervous about having a claim because typically our claims are just you kind of screw up a little bit and you forget to do something, or usually they're pretty minor as far as the number of claims go. Of course, the worst claim is always leaving the water on. All of us who throw the hose in because the customer's not keeping their water up, and we're trying to help them. That thing's going through an hour or two's worth of running water a week, and we put it in for 20 minutes thinking we're going to make a dent in it. 75% of our claims come out to be water claims. So it gets to be a little unforgivable to me, and I sure wish guys would just start putting that back on the homeowner. But that said, using insurance is not that big a deal, and that's what the insurance is there for. Now, if you're a complete idiot, yeah, we'll probably drop you. If you're out there doing acid washes and you mess up 5 acid washes, yeah, we're probably going to say, what are we doing with you? Because you're just going to run our premiums up, and we're going to talk about getting rid of you. But other than that, most of this stuff is just common human mistakes, and that's what we buy insurance for.
It is. I would say it's very rare. I mean, once a year we end up with something that's of significance. And Steve, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's always the water, But it doesn't take a stretch of the imagination to kind of think about worst case scenarios. You've got. We try to educate our guys to, hey, if there's, nets on the pool, let's not mess with those, and you can, again, it doesn't take much of an imagination to realize there's certain things that can happen in this line of work that you just don't want to be responsible for. And, so it's really a comforting idea knowing that you've got an insurance company behind you. And I think even with the small stuff, I mean, I can think of examples, where it's a really daunting experience when you get a letter in the mail, you're being sued, even if it's something that's, relatively minor, it may, we had one recently that was a $7,000 claim, and that, the homeowner had a, wild hair, a thorn, and just, tried to sue the pool guy, and, ended up, of course, I mean, the natural reaction is, God, what's going on? I've got this attorney sending me, and it's a really daunting experience. But having the insurance company be able to, who've got their attorneys on panel, who've got, who can go through this process and really help you through it. It's a real, I don't know, in my mind, it's worth the $67 a month to have that in the background. And, and Joe, I think you mentioned a little earlier, I mean, having the broker too also, help out in the sense of being able to walk people through this, I think is a huge step as well. And it's just nice to have people on your bench is what it boils down to. And I've been in those situations. I had a landlord at one point when I was in college who sued us, which was, again, at that point it was like, oh my Lord, what's happening here? And you just, I can understand the panic, but anyways, again, it's a good thing to have somebody on your bench though, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and with us, we have a giant insurance company behind us. It's not just Bob's Insurance from Puerto Rico or something. Yeah. Well, we have the world's largest insurance carrier behind us. So that, for me, that's extremely comforting. And the funny thing about service people is a lot of service people have families. A lot of service people own property. You've got to stabilize that with insurance. It's not enough to earn wealth. You got to retain it and you got to protect it. So insurance is a simple way. And like you say, Sean, the $67 that we charge for $2 million worth of coverage is, I don't know how you can do better than that. No, plus the quality of our policy. Now, maybe we get into that a little bit about what our policy covers and the quality of it. I mean, it covers quite a broad range of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of worth pointing out, that there's insurance policies out there for everything, and generally speaking, these are all kind of framed around the same format. So there's basically a policy out there that are basically modified in fashions, but everybody's kind of starting from the same base policy, and that's a problem for certain industries and companies that have sort of exposures that are not normal. You know, in other words, we're not a group of computer programmers. You know, we're not a group of 7-Eleven retail clerks. You know, you know, this is stuff where, you know, we're dealing with chemicals, we're dealing with, you know, huge over the road exposure. We've got exposures that are not sort of typical to to a lot of companies out there. And so what that kind of results in is we've got to have a policy that is really tailored to what our guys do. And, you know, the reality is these policies are not easy to read. I've been in insurance for 20 years, and you know, it takes me a couple of times to sometimes go through this and go, am I reading this correctly? You know, and I've read these things thousands of times, you know. So, you know, having somebody come in there, you know, just, you know, who's not even in the insurance world, reading this thing, trying to interpret what in the heck they've got here is a next to impossible feat. And, I mean, we've got attorneys that struggle with this, you know. So this is it's not a very simple process. And, you know, so part of it, you know, not to go way off on a tangent here, but I mean, part of it worth mentioning, I think, is, you know, insurance is basically, it's a contract. You know, you've got a contract between the insurance company and the buyer, you know, but the unique quality of this, or the unique aspect of this contract, is that you as the buyer have virtually no control of what you're getting there. I mean, it's basically the insurance company going, here it is. You have to buy what I'm giving you. So you're kind of forced. You don't really understand what you're buying. You're just trusting it's doing what you think it's going to do. So you pay the money, the insurance company takes your money, and you're stuck with it. And now all of a sudden something happens, and you know, the insurance company says, sorry, that's not covered, because if you go to exclusion F here, you're going to see there's a pollution exclusion, and you actually were out there dealing with chemicals. It actually falls within this exclusion. So I'm sorry, we're barring coverage, and furthermore, we're not going to defend you in this lawsuit. Now you're put in a position. I didn't know there was an exclusion F. I didn't read 40 pages in, and so you know, so there's a good faith requirement these insurance companies have, and so we're in a unique situation here where the insurance company, there's a understanding legally that, you know, any sort of ambiguity is going to be in your favor. And furthermore, if there's ever any sort of incident that happens and you have a dispute with your insurance company, there's actually, you know, beyond just contract damages, you can sue for bad faith. You know, so insurance companies are painfully aware of this. But it goes back to the earlier point where you gotta kind of know what you got, you know, and the insurance broker, you know, these people that are there to help, you know, it's extremely important. And I'm sorry, I know I ran off here, but the point I was trying to make about this is we've done sort of things to our policy to make sure we modify them for those major areas that coverage wouldn't exist if we hadn't done that. And the big one I touched on was that pollution exclusion. You know, most of the claims that we are getting have to do with the, you know, damage to the plaster. You know, you think about it, you run the pH wrong, you add too much you know, acidity to it, it etches the plaster. You know, that would actually technically fall within a pollution exclusion, you know, to the chemicals you're using. So normal policy, not going to cover that. You know, we have removed that exclusion. So, you know, those situations where your sanitizer, everything you're adding in there, your cyanuric gets out of boundaries, you know, this stuff is all covered under our policy. Worst case scenario, you know, you think about situations that we've had where the chemicals actually cause a bodily injury. You know, somebody gets burned, you know, broadcasting trichlor, and it got on the deck. You know, we've had burns because of that. You know, this stuff would all be excluded under a normal policy, you know, which ours, again, we've carved back. Carbon monoxide, that one's come up, you know, where we had a heater install. The guy didn't have the parts with him. So he went out, he actually did, I thought, a miraculous job of going out, warning the property manager, hey, this needs to remain shut off. He taped it off, you know. Long story short, another property manager came in there, flipped the thing back on, and I guess it was vented it wasn't vented yet, but it went up into the apartment upstairs, and of course the woman, she got carbon monoxide poisoning, and
wow.
So this turned into a lawsuit, and this actually got really interesting because it was our guy was working for somebody else, and it just happened to be that the other guy's insurance, guess what? He had bought a normal policy that was basically not geared for what he was doing. Long story short, no coverage. You know, his company didn't defend him, didn't indemnify him, and of course, you know, our policy, at least our guy was thrilled because he was fine. He was able to provide the details and step back, and the insurance company took it from there. So it's really important. I mean, now limits. And Steve, stop me if I turn this into a sales pitch, but I mean, it's, you know, we've gone through lengths to make sure that we, you know, we've kind of addressed, you know, worst case scenario, I think, for our guys. You know, it used to be, I don't know, 5 years ago, we had 1 million in the occurrence, which would be 1 million per any sort of accident that would have happened. And then in the aggregate, we had 2 million. So you could have as many of these incidents to get up to that 2 million mark. And each, you know, each of our limits were per member for us. So each member had their own separate limits. We raised that a little bit ago to 2 million, 4 million. And really, it's kind of just with inflation. I mean, you think about it, you know, it used to be a very rare thing that you end up with $1 million claim. Now that's not so rare. It happens.
Yeah, I can cut in on that. Our policy dates back to 1969, and at the time, it was set up for 1 million, 3 million in 1969. Now, I remember in 1969, I had a job, and I think I was making $1.50 an hour. I mean, the dollars are so much different. So we got into 2010, it's still $1 million. We're scratching our heads going, is this really going to cover us? And we, you know, as a board, we decided, no, let's pump this thing up to $2 million. Now, they charge us an extra $16 a month for that extra $1 million, but it was worth it. Now we sit here at $67. Now, here's a little thing I like to do is take the $67, subtract that $16. That if we're to be back at $1 million, we would be paying $51 a month. That's when I came into UPA 30 years ago, we were paying $52 a month. So if you dance those numbers around, our premiums just don't go up. I mean, they're just, I mean, we keep our losses down. We protect our program, and we are sincerely rewarded for it with $67 a month. That's an incredible number. So. Yeah. And a lot of that's too is thanks to Sean's negotiation, because Sean is the one that goes to the insurance company and negotiates on our behalf, because our relationship with Sean is one that Sean works for us, and Sean will come right up and tell you, you're my client, I work for you, and everything I do is on your behalf, which is outstanding. I don't know that everyone can say that. And on top of that, Sean is just as transparent as possible. So when he goes into these negotiations, I feel great, because every time he comes out, we got a better deal than I ever thought we'd get. So I want to thank Sean for that.
Well, I think it's a lot easier with you. No, I think it's also one of the things is the relationship that we have with you is you'll tell us, hey, this is where we're heading. Do we want to go that direction? Do we want to spend the money? Do we want to do this type of policy change? And you like lay down the groundwork for us in UPA. So, you know, there's associations out there that they just don't know what they're getting, and you always make that very clear. And I know Steve's told me that, because I haven't been around UPA as long, but that's something that is invaluable as far as having a broker that's that transparent with their association. So just want people listening to hear that.
You know, I appreciate it. I'll tell you though, you know, this should not be a kudos moment. I mean, the reality is, you know, the UPA as an organization, you know, you guys have to make decisions on what to do, where insurance is just a reality, you know, where, you know, you think about this, if you guys had no idea of what was happening, and, you know, we made some decision that, you know, hey, we're, you know, unilaterally, we're going to remove this, or we're going to add this exclusion, there could be contractual issues down the line with a lot of your commercial, you know, pools. Think about your members that, you know, they have no idea who the insurance company is, and all of a sudden some change were to happen, you know, they lose a bunch of their commercial contracts. You know, I mean, there's huge business implications by not involving, you know, in my opinion, the organization that actually should, you know, that's driving the bus. You know, you guys are driving the bus.
I agree with you, Sean. And that's one of the great relationships that we have with our insurance broker at UPA is everything that's done. I mean, it's done out in the open. Sean doesn't do anything behind the back of anyone. Sean doesn't conspire with the board or say, let's just do this and those guys will figure it out. Everything is on the table. And Sean understands. Sean now, I mean, he's been with us 3 years, a little over 3 years, and he understands our business now. And he sees to it that he keeps us covered, which is an amazing thing. And he sees to it that there's no out of left field shots coming our way. So, and as our representative, he really does a heck of a job. He does not come down and say, hey, guess what? You guys are screwed. He lets us know before it's coming, where it's all going. So The relationship works out fantastically. I couldn't be happier with it, and the way we run our broker, you know, and all you guys that don't know the difference between a broker and an insurance company, the underwriter Allianz is the one that sells insurance, and Sean is the middleman. Sean is the salesman of that insurance, and Sean also services the account. So so Western Growers is the broker, Allianz is the insurance company, and it would pay guys out there to know this stuff. Everything you own is on the line. Every time you get in that truck, or every time you kick over that gate and it's going to someone's yard or going to a commercial pool, it's on the line. You can pull a pole back real quick and take a kid's eye out. You could lose your house over that stuff. And here's a great example. If you want to hear a chilling example, we have a guy that had an employee out there that he wasn't paying workers' comp on, and he didn't have an insurance policy on. And our member sent him out there to do a poll anyway. He poured a bunch of trichlor granules in the pump pot. He dumped a basket. He pours trichlor granules in the pump pot for God knows what reason. Puts the lid on, and the thing's not priming. So he opens it up and pours a gallon of liquid chlorine in there as a primer for the pump. As he's putting the lid on, the thing blows up and hits him in the eye. And I don't know, I forget how much eyesight he lost there, but the guy was like 22, lost a significant piece of eyesight out of one eye. He's suing our member. Our member's got nowhere to hide. He's got nothing to protect him. And the last I heard, his house might have to go to pay this kid off. So this stuff's important. And you guys have employees, insure the employees. If you have employees, get workers' comp on them. I mean, if the guy would be paying a workers' comp bill, which, you know, hey, no one likes paying insurance bills. Those are the hardest ones to pay because you really don't see anything coming back. I mean, at least with a tank of gas, you see what you get. But with insurance, it's hard to quantify that stuff. But I think it's so worth doing and so worth paying attention to and tuning into, and not just saying, all insurance is alike, because it is certainly not on the business commercial end.
No, it's geared to pool service technicians. I mean, that's the point. Steve, I think you hit on a huge point. I think worth mentioning. You know, and Joe, thankfully you're in Arizona, so you don't have quite the same implications that we do here. But this whole this industry is, you know, filled with quote unquote independent contractors. You know, so we've got our guys who are, you know, are not hiring people because they, you know, it's more cost effective to run independent contractors. And, you know, we talked about this, I think, a little bit 2 meetings ago. You know, we had a case that had gone through California court system in 2018 that had kind of changed a little bit how we sort of recognize independent contractors and employees. And the trick was really, it kind of changed sort of the the burden, I guess, to the employer. You know, the employer having to show that basically this is truly an independent contractor relationship. And, you know, the case, not to get too much into the details, but it was really hinged around what's kind of wage and hour law here, so having to do with breaks, overtime, that type of stuff. You know, so it wasn't really geared around the workers' compensation piece. But that being said, you know, the ramifications of it, you know, could be very far-reaching, meaning that, you know, even trying to prove this independent contractor relationship for the IRS or having to prove it for the workers' compensation law, you know, it's going to really turn into a huge, potentially uphill struggle. And really the translation, what it's going to be is that, you know, you had this test that was, you know, previously had about 11 points based on a case that had happened a while ago, the Borello case. And a lot of it just had to do with, you know, were you controlling the work? And then there was a bunch of subset factors there. And what this did is really flipped it around and said, look, there's really 3 points here, you know, and it had to do with the worker being in, you know, control of their work, is, you know, by practicality as well as by contract. You also had they also had to make sure they're performing tasks that were really outside of the scope of what your business is. Now, this is the trick for all of us, is that you know, it kind of flips it around. You know, now you're in the business of servicing pools, and you're hiring an independent contractor who is in the business of servicing pools. So right there, you're kind of in a position where it's, you know, you're not going to be able to prove that. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to establish this independent contractor piece. And, so I don't know, a year, 2 years. I mean, the good news is most of our guys aren't employing 1,000 guys. So, from a target perspective, it's probably low on the target for a plaintiff's attorney to come out after. There's not a lot of money there. But that being said, you imagine the situation like Steve mentioned, where you've got an independent contractor out there who severely injures himself. So he falls, maybe he's doing an acid wash, drains the pool, trips over the bucket, falls down to the bottom of the pool, and he's a quadriplegic. What happens there? I'll tell you exactly what happens there. He's going to basically realize, crap, I was 22. I didn't buy health insurance. I don't need it. Maybe he falls under his parents, but maybe not. Hypothetically, say he doesn't, he goes, he can't pay for his medical bills. His parents are, being, basically, bankrupt. So that, they get an attorney. And guess what? Wait, what were you doing? You were servicing pools for who? Wait a minute here. So
yes.
Now you're going to have a link. And guess what? The workers' compensation laws in California, you don't have that policy, but you still are legally responsible for the medical care as well as indemnifying him for his lost wages. And that's game over. You're done. And hopefully you've created a business, you're protected, you're siloed, you got an LLC, and you're going to be able to get away from that. But, a couple $1 million claim, there's going to be some smart attorneys that are going to be able to pierce that and figure out how exactly to get to your house and whatever the heck else you have.
Hey, so, and even if you get by that, you're paying attorneys through the nose to get by that. So, go out there and get that second mortgage on your house. You won't be paying that thing off anytime soon. And
I don't want to turn this into scare everybody out there, but I just think it's worth knowing. It's a very real thing that's happening in our industry. This independent contractor thing is not going away anytime soon. It's people are going to use independent. Look, I don't know what the average pool down here. People charge $100 a pool, whatever it might be. We've got, of course, some anomalies. They charge $150, but those are the rare ones. And so you're competing, and somebody to do it correctly and buy workers' compensation for all of these so-called independent contractors, they price themselves in a different pricing bucket. So it's tough. There's a business decision that has to be made, but in the end, I think it goes back to that earlier thing we talked about insurance. It all kind of comes down to risk. How much do you want to take? How much do you want to transfer off? And this to me that's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. And if maybe it's not you buy the workers' compensation, make them an employee, but maybe you make sure that these guys have workers' compensation insurance. Make sure they've got something. Just try to button it up. And the other thing to think about too, for those of you guys out there with commercial pools, it's not unusual for them to require workers' compensation. So some of these guys buy workers' compensation just to have it. It could be an owner's policy or something just to cover themselves so they can get by contractually to get into that pool. Now, I bring this up just because, what can happen too is those workers' compensation policies are audited, So what happens is that insurance company comes back just to make sure you didn't have any changes. You didn't hire a guy. You didn't, because they want to make sure they collect the premium for what that exposure is out there. Now, I would venture a guess that at some point this case that happened in 2018 is going to influence that decision-making on the workers' compensation company side. In other words, they're going to come in there and say, and this is a standard question, do you have independent contractors? Yes, I do. What did they show you proof of insurance? Maybe, I don't know. If you don't have it in file, guess what? That's a no. So what that means is they're going to charge you for that exposure that they face. So they're going to make a payroll charge for that. And in our world, it's anywhere from $8 to $12 per 100 of payroll, which, if you figure you had $100,000 in payroll out there, that's anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 that you didn't think you were going to have to pay. That's a big bill. That would really upset me.
Oh yeah.
So it's just to think about. Again, I don't mean this to turn this into a big gloom and doom, scare everybody, but just keep in the back of your mind, because it's for those larger ones out here who are running 10 independent contractors, it's worth mentioning. And to Steve's earlier point, insure those guys. If not for workers' comp, at least for the general liability, because you got one of those guys out there. They're not, Joe Blow homeowner. I don't know who Bob is in my backyard. I know who Joe is. Joe was the guy who came to me and sold my pool. And I know he's got different guys coming out here, but I write my check to Joe. So, Joe is the guy. Joe's who I'm going to sue. that kid gets into my pool, I'm going after Joe, not Bob. And so, so it's just $67 a month. It's just painful that guys don't insure these guys, and at a minimum, funnel those guys to us. We'll insure them. You're on the same policy, in the back of your mind that they've got a good policy too. So if Bob does screw up, at least he's got the right policy behind him, so he's not going to be able to get to you, Joe.
and it's funny how screw ups happen. You never know when they're coming. That's the painful part. You think, well, and I don't know. I've heard guys say this before. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've never had a claim. I don't need insurance. That's stupid. And I paid into this thing all this time, and I never got anything back. And it's such, I don't know. It's so stupid that they do that. But you've got to have that stuff. It's protecting. All you're doing is protecting your wealth. You pay for a lock on your front door to protect what you got in your house. You should buy insurance to protect the assets that you've acquired in your life. And today with inflation and everything, that number gets pretty damn high pretty fast. So I marvel at guys that try and cut those corners, and I know a few, and I talked to them, and I thought, I can't believe you're doing this. Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it. Boy, those are the guys that a lot of time have regrets. So we can't push these guys hard enough to use their heads. Hey, something I want to circle back to is water claims. No discussion insurance is complete without talking about leaving the hose on. Oh my goodness. I was going to have a flyer up here to show, but of course I forgot to grab it.
I was looking for mine too. I feel like I had
it's not a flyer. It's a door hanger. UPA made up a bunch of door hangers that pretty much they have the usual door hanger stuff where you check off everything you did at the pool and what you saw and how you liked it. We lost Sean.
No,
there he is. Okay.
I thought I had it over there. I don't have it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
But we also threw on there to tell the homeowner, put the water in the pool. You are responsible for putting water in your pool. Like Jason Broswell says, you got two jobs: swim in your pool, keep water in your pool. Other than that, I'll take care of everything else. Us putting water in the pool. I mean, Sean had a pie chart on our last board meeting where 75% of the dollars we dished out over whatever period, and it just seems to run between 75 and 85% of the dollars we pay out are in water claims, leaving the water on. Oh, there it is. Yeah,
nice.
all that blue, by the way, is the water.
Yeah, so it's an incredible number. Now in UPA, we've Sean has done so many great negotiations on our behalf. One of the ones is that we have a dividend program. If we keep our claims down, Allianz will dividend back some of our premium that we paid them all year. And it can be in a significant amount. I mean, it can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if we do this. If we knocked out these water claims, there'd be so much money coming back to our members, and we'd struggle to count it all. But that's why I'd love to see this putting water in. Now, here's another thing I want to put on there. We on our door hanger, we put due to insurance reasons, we can't put water in your pool. Now, the other group has grabbed this thing and they're running around saying that UPA doesn't cover water claims, which is nuts. We cover water claims all the way. It's painful, but we do it because it's part of our policy and we have to have it in there, and we are not taking it out. The reason we put that in there is, yes, due to insurance reasons, and that's the words we chose. And the insurance reason is if we have water claims, our premiums go up. So due to insurance reasons, don't put water in to keep our premiums down, to keep our dividend coming back to our members down. Dividend up, premiums down. So we'll be distributing these things. We'll be at the Western Show passing these things out. Our board meeting in April, we'll have a lot of these door hangers. If you guys get to the Western Show, do come by and get them. I've mailed them out to people, members, and to try and get everyone to get water, put the water in the pool, have the customer do it. Don't do it anymore. Anyway, how about you, Joe? Do you
let me touch up. Yeah, I do it every week.
Well, let me come out and beat your ass.
No, actually, I was going to touch on that as far as no, I don't. But the other thing that I do to try to compensate try to flip the coin on the customer. So for instance, if the pool needs water, and that's why you're turning on the water, obviously, to fill the pool up, just shut the equipment off, and leave, and call them, leave the door hanger, text them, say, hey, your equipment's off because your pool is low. I'm not going to be the one that's adding water. Luckily out here, we have a bunch of pools that have autofills on them, and the builders have been pretty good about that. But there is your occasional pools that don't have the autofills on them. So the point that I like to make is let that customer go down the path of what's going to happen to the service of their pool. And then they'll start to realize how important it is that they put the water in themselves. Because, if I shut off the pool and I let them know, hey, your pool's off, I'm not going to be back there till next week. I've come by to do my service, but I can't service a pool because your pump can't run. It's going to run dry. And, that's on you. That's not on me, because I can't do it due to legal reasons and, my insurance and stuff like that. So that's where it's just one of those things where I try to flip the coin, if you will, and try to put it back on the customer in that regard so that they know this is important. I'm not doing my service guy any justice by not putting water in my pool, so that's just something to case in point.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way. I mean, any way you can sell your people on it. I mean, we don't go back there and scoop up the dog shit. We don't wash the car in the driveway, and we don't put water in the pool. So it's simple as that, right? So
although I will bring up my customers' trash cans.
No, I do
that's
that
a good
too.
service.
Nice.
Yeah, we provide that just for the wife is like, oh, thanks, honey, for bringing up the trash cans. Like, I know, and they realize, oh, the pool guy did it. That's cool. And then you add more value to your service. So
yeah, I do that same thing too. But
hey, I wanted to touch on one more thing. We're talking about obviously the employees, independent contractors, that sort of thing. Again, it goes back to, like you said, Sean, people are going to go after the owner of the company. That's who's got the target on their back. And it's our job, if we do have employees, or for the guys out there, ladies out there that have companies that have employees, make sure that you make your employees know, or hopefully, if you have independent contractors, but hopefully your employees know that they are representing your business. They're not just representing themselves. Sometimes the people, fortunately, that we can hire are not necessarily the people we maybe want to have. I mean, you kind of get what you get, although a lot of times you get people that are really good. And in those cases, they know that they're representing you, but you want the people that represent you. And the reason I say that is because they know that you do have the target on your back. And that's very important when you are dealing with claims or anything like that, because you want them to know that, hey, it's not just you going out there and cleaning a pool for me. You're representing my business. This came very clear to me when I was in high school playing basketball. And our coach said, hey, when you're walking around campus, you're a basketball player on our team and you represent the school. Even if you're at another school, playing basketball, other kids or other people look at you and go, oh, you're from that high school, and I mean, I learned that at an early age, and you kind of see it from looking outside in. So again, a person looks at the person that's working for your company and they go, oh yeah, that guy's working for Joe. They don't go, oh, that's Carlos. They don't think that way. So I just wanted to bring that back. Sorry, I went on that tangent, but
no, I think it's a great.
Yeah.
I think about too. There's also if you are hiring these guys, I mean, usually they're, I don't know, the 22, 25-year-old young guy, you guys have been in the business for a while, I mean, they're doing this for two reasons, probably a paycheck, but also to learn a trade, and it's a good trade. And so there's a sort of mentorship program. And I mean, I know it not to sound sappy, but, it's, there's a degree of trust there, with the, the employee, and, you hopefully, or independent contractor, or whatever it might be, you don't want to do wrong by that person. I think back, I was in college, and I needed a summer job, and I got a job with this construction outfit. They were drilling caissons over in the Malibu Hills. And so my job was simply, I was the sledgehammer guy, which, Joe and Steve, you've seen me, I'm not the biggest guy, but the sledgehammer weighed as much as I did. But, at the time I was, in sports, so at least I could carry the darn thing. But all day it was just slugging that, the coring bucket, sledgehammer just to knock out that dirt. And, you would drill these caisson holes, 30 feet deep. And sometimes that bucket would get stuck and the pin would break free. And so somebody would have to go down in that hole to basically, reattach that pin.
Sean's a little guy.
I remember being there and having my boss at the time going, all right, son, you got to get in, you got to go hook that thing up. And I said, damn you. I mean, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I knew enough that I was getting paid $7 an hour to dick around with that stupid sledgehammer. I'm not climbing in that hole. So I told him, I said, you're going to get your fat ass down here and get in there because I'm not doing it. And so I held my ground. But this was a perfect example of, just a situation, no regard, and that whole employment relationship that lasted about 2 months, went south very quickly. But, that's the wrong way to do things. So, no workers' comp policy, nothing. If I had been dumb enough to get in that thing, and God forbid, a little bit of movement of dirt, I'd be buried under 25 feet of dirt, no benefits or nothing to my family for, at the time. So anyways, long story short, it's just educate. And I think, Joe, you touched on it, just let the guys know the relationship, and if it's an independent contractor, have an independent contractor agreement. It's not going to stand up, but at least have it so you're spelling it out for the guy knowing this is the intent, but yeah, anyway, it's always best to do things correctly, I think. But
yeah, I was a little concerned about the state of California passing that thing to tighten up independent contractor rules. I don't know. On one hand, it's just like, stay the hell out of my business. Let me do what I got to do. But on the other hand, maybe guys need to get a little more legit. And if we were had a maximum legitimacy out there, maybe we'd make more money. Maybe we could charge more money. Maybe we charge them what we should be charging. But since a lot of guys don't go legit, they keep their prices down. And I don't think they're doing anybody a favor doing that. So it might be a good idea for these guys that, you know what, I'm going to get legit and I'm going to charge the prices I need to charge. And the cheap guy that has to run away and find the cheapest deal, maybe I don't need him on my route anymore. I kind of figured that one out years ago. It's, the cheap guy or the guy that anytime anything breaks, the first thing that comes into question is your integrity. Although the motor quits spinning, it's like, well, what did you do to the motor? I know you backwashed the filter the other day. I think you screwed up the motor. And it's like, it's me. And it's this ancient crap you got, you don't replace, and you're going to put this on me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Steve. And I tell you, like, from a homeowner's perspective, a lot of the homeowners, I would hope, are, thinking about who's climbing in their backyard. I can tell you, I have some big trees. Steve's seen them in my front yard, these god awful ash trees that just cause destruction to everything, including your foundation. But I had to get them trimmed. And the first tree contractor who came by, I asked him, I said, hey, you're going to be climbing up there 40 feet high. Do you have workers' comp insurance? Oh, yes, of course. And of course that never showed up. I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable with this. And, to Steve, your point, I felt a little more comfortable having a guy could show me a certificate of insurance for workers' comp when he's climbing, 40 feet up in my trees.
Well,
but
that's another point, Sean. I mean, people work on their house all the time. They don't even ask about workers' comp. And a lot of these guys that are laborers are getting wise to the lawsuit nature of our society, especially in California. I mean, it's out of control here.
No kidding.
But they know, trip and fall. You know what? I'll make more than the $15 an hour you're paying me if I just fall down in your patio. Yeah. So I just had a guy do a whole bunch of cleaning out of my yard and trimming back of trees because I do kind of a minimal job, and it just kind of got out of hand. And workers' comp? Oh, no, I don't have that. And it's just like, so I ended up getting a guy with workers' comp, and it ended up costing me about $200 more. But thank goodness, because, I'm putting everything on my line. I put everything I own on the line to have this guy trim my trees. So, you got to watch that stuff.
And not to get way off base here, but Steve, also another point, we've had some of these claims happen where it's been the helper, not the helper, but the independent contractor has been back there, and of course our guy getting pinched in the claim, And we've had a couple situations where it was the Ring doorbell that, was very clear who was in the back of that pool and who was not back in that pool. And who was not back in that pool was the insurance,
the insured.
The insured, exactly. So,
that's another thing that I think guys are wising up to. When I first started, there were very few people had surveillance stuff on their house. Now it's so cheap and it's gimmicky, and people love that stuff. They can rack it all up on their house and then sit there at work and watch it on their phone. You can't get away with anything in that backyard. Everything you do in that yard, you gotta assume people are watching. You cannot figure, well, no one's looking. They're always looking.
Absolutely.
and they're recording it. And if you do something stupid and damage their property, they're going to sue you. So
sadly. Joe, you want to move to California?
Yeah.
Joe's
I'm on my way
back there.
No, just listening. A lot of good points.
Yeah.
So, hey, as long as we're going here, what other kind of good claims do we have? We have one. Maybe the ones that make you laugh, make me cringe and laugh at the same time are the one where the member is just incredibly stupid. I'm sorry. And if I mention your claim, it's nothing personal, but I know we had one guy drain a pool looking for a place to drain it. And the homeowner said, go ahead and drain it in the flower bed here.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. And of course it flooded the house and we had a water claim. Now, come on, you guys. Anyone who thinks you can drop 20,000 gallons of water in a flower bed in a 6-hour period, I'm sorry, man. Yeah. Don't do that stuff. Use your head when these guys offer up something like that. Don't take it. Yeah.
It's so true. But Steve, you hit on it earlier. The avoidable ones, are generally these water damage ones. We had one. Actually, it hasn't really. It just came in, and it was he was backwashing the pump or filter, and he had it shooting out over the side of they had a little hill in the backyard, and water shooting down, and basically there was a little bungalow down below, which I guess he wasn't aware of was down there, and apparently the water line ran straight down there. And it's a little, 800 square foot, 500 square foot little studio. But of course, the guy apparently is a rug collector. So there he is with his Persian rug that, of course, is apparently a $8,000 Persian rug. So we're waiting to see exactly what happened here. But it again was kind of not looking what you were doing. The draining the pools, and the P trap. We end up with those a lot, where it's they get the pump set up, they're draining the pool, and then they just take off, and so after they got it in, they leave. Homeowner's of course gone, and so the next thing you know, it's clogged, it's backfilling. Now it's going into the house, whereas if guys would just stay for 15 minutes or something, or even notify the homeowner, tell the homeowner how to shut off the pump. If you have to leave, make sure somebody's there, let them know that what you're doing. Yeah, but just try to sort of prevent this. You always got to think about the worst case scenario, and that's what we usually see. It's usually the homeowner's gone for 4 days. He's on vacation. We had this happen over in San Gabriel Valley, where they drained the pool on a Thursday. Left the water on a Thursday. Homeowner comes back on a Monday, and of course, it's just everything's obliterated and wet. So that was I think a $70,000-$80,000 water damage claim, which was just mind numbing, because it was like, God. And of course, Steve, to your point earlier, it's always, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never done this. But, you think about just all of us, and I don't care how smart you are, how good you think your memory is, how much ginkgo biloba you're taking, you're gonna forget something, and if you're really busy, you get that phone call, you left the hose on, you forgot to put your keys on the, the hose bib, whatever, you're gonna forget, and sooner or later, it's a matter of time,
The keys in a hose bib, everyone says, oh, I have it solved. I put the keys in the hose bib. That has failed so many times. That is not a fail-safe way to put water in a pool. I've talked to guys that I put keys in the hose bib. I got up to my truck. I needed something out of it. Didn't have my keys. Went back, pulled it off the hose bib, opened up my truck, got the tool I needed, locked my truck, keys in my pocket, went back, take off. The water's still on. I've done this. Well, this kind of shows how stupid I am, but I've done this where I put the keys in the hose bib. I finish up. I get up to my truck, and I feel for my keys. I'm going, man, I must have lost my keys. And this is how dumb I am, really. So I go for that spare set that I got hidden on my truck. Well, I just use my spare set and take off. And then like an hour later, I'm going, wait a minute, I put those keys in that hose bib. And I have to travel back. Now, it's conceivable for me that I would never think of it again until the homeowner called me and said, thanks for flooding my house. But it's not a fail-safe deal. The fail-safe deal is not putting it in at all. Let the homeowner do it. And if the homeowner doesn't want to do it, they need to put in an autofill. I'm amazed at how many people, like we had a water claim where the guy's putting water in the pool out in like Palm Springs, Palm Desert. I mean, that's the low desert. It gets hot there. It gets hot where Joe is. And it gets hot in Palm Desert too. And the guy turned on the water. And it's a vacation home. The guy's doing the pool. And he turns on the water and leaves it for 5 days or whatever it was and floods the house. And the homeowner comes and finds the same as that San Gabriel Valley claim. But how do you have a house in the desert and not have an autofill on your pool? And if your pool man says you need to put that on, no, I don't think I need it. You know, okay, great. I'll be selling you a pump every month then, because I am not putting water in this thing. There's no way I can get enough water in this thing in 120-degree weather to last for a week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know common practice was to leave the hose dripping. I haven't seen this in probably half a decade or probably more, but clients would just leave the hose dripping in the summer, and that's about how fast it's actually evaporating in our summer. It's so dry out here that the water is, just evaporates. So you can literally let the hose just drip into the pool, and it stays pretty much level. So
how much water do you guys lose in the summer, Joe? With evaporation.
So I've heard early in my career, I heard that it was about 1.5 times the volume of your pool is how much water you're going to lose in a year in Phoenix.
Wow.
So that's how much you're filling it. Obviously you don't see that, but that's how much water is going into your pool in the course of a year, is about 1.5 times its volume. So yeah, I have a client that he keeps his pool full. Well, he tries to, and he claims that he has a leak. And I've checked everything. His TDS is not going down. Everything is solid in the pool. He just doesn't realize that because he's filling it maybe once a week and the water goes down an inch, that, oh, he must have a leak. And I tell him, no, that's evaporation, you know. I always love the customers that think, oh, my pool just naturally stays full. Like I had this old lady years and years ago. She just thought her pool just naturally stayed full like a lake would or something, you know. It's like, no, you have an auto filler. Oh, I didn't know that. You know, so, you know, you just got to have to educate your customers and let them know, like, this is their job. This is how it works. The water's not connected to the pool equipment. You know, that's always a funny one too. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff is stuff that we as business owners and people that are in the field need to litigate ourselves, as far as letting it go to a claim. You know, that's the biggest point that we're trying to make today. You know, is this: try to avoid anything that can happen, because you don't want to don't get lazy on your own business, because that's when you'll just regret it so much later on. So,
yeah.
And I think another good point too is that, you know, obviously you want to avoid the insurance, you know, headaches, but, you know, you also 9 times out of 10, if not more, you know, you have a claim at somebody's house, they fire you. You know, you're losing a customer, so it also affects your business. You know, so I think
you flooded my house. Oh, but you're a great guy. I'm going to keep you. Yeah, that never happens.
Doesn't happen too often.
No.
No, that's right. You generally lose the account when you flood someone's house, or even do some smaller things.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, you definitely want to avoid it. And this is what Sean and I go to the trade shows, and or the local ones on the West Coast here anyway. And we always say the whole tenet of UPA is, you know, show up to meetings, or, you know, further your education, and don't make a bunch of stupid claims. Yeah. I mean, claims are fine. Stupid claims are not.
Stupid claims are not.
I mean, you know, my thing has always been, while I was president, I'd tell guys that look, I can't throw you out of UPA. I can tell your chapter president to do something about you, and the board can vote to throw the whole chapter out if you guys are harming our insurance program. But we had one guy, he had 3 acid wash claims, I was thinking about a year and a half. I talked to the guy, well, what's going on with these acid wash claims? So he goes, well, I drained it and I wasn't done yet, so I put a bunch of wet towels on, and I had the homeowner keeping the towels wet on the steps. And it's like, what are you doing? Drain that thing, acid wash it, get water back in there. Why is this thing empty for days on end? So finally I talked to his president. Before I could talk to his president, the claims come through, and the president of his chapter had an acid wash claim. I'm going. So I talked to the guy and go, hey, man, you guys are out of control here. You got to get this one dude under control. And I don't know if there's any more acid wash claims coming out of you here in the near future. We're going to be talking about you and your chapter and the board, and it's not going to go well for you. But that said, we've never thrown anybody out doing that. Thank goodness. Because most guys are pretty conscientious about what they do and about making sure they don't screw up because they don't want to lose a client.
Yeah. Oh, well put.
So
I also mentioned this at our last president's meeting, which was a week or 2 ago. To all the presidents and chapters out there, just try to remember that we actually are the underwriters for Sean and for Western growers, so that when we're bringing somebody in under our chapter, we need to kind of vet them. Ask guys, does anybody know this guy or gal? Like, what's their history in the industry? You don't want to have somebody come over from another association that's got just tons of claims against them. And, we kind of want to make sure we're bringing somebody in that's professional. That's kind of the whole adage of, what we're here for. So just something to keep in mind that, we're not just everybody off the street come and join. You want to make sure that these people are professionally qualified to be a part of your chapter and also to be a part of UPA. So,
I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing we've started doing here in UPA is the virtual chapter. We've been putting guys onto it, and we've been adding quite a few members into our virtual base here. But pretty much it's sort of compete with the guys that go this no meeting stuff. I don't think no meetings is necessarily a good thing unless you find a way to further your education. And that's what's great about the meetings. But now with Jason Broswell's group, they've got on that. What's the name of it, Joe? You can recite that better than I can.
Swimming pool industry workers and pool pros only.
Yeah, that Facebook group. There's a chapter meeting going on constantly, 24 hours a day. They're talking about stuff. They're across the United States. They're in Australia, New Zealand, Europe. One guy was posting plastering a pool in Africa. I mean, they're all over the place, but they're talking about the problems they see and how they solve them, and they're asking questions and they're getting help. This is one of the things going to make our virtual chapter do so well, is because we've got so many people that are working so hard out there to get information out, and I think it's going to work great. So we'll be unleashing our virtual chapter at the Western Show. But until then, I mean, join UPA, $67 a month. It auto pays out of your account. And the vetting process there is we have an application you fill out, and the board members, the president, myself, the vice president, secretary, treasurer, we'll be going over these names. We'll be asking the questions, and we'll be putting you in, and we'll be watching this virtual chapter for somebody who's going to hurt the program. And if they do hurt the program, well, they're going to get dropped. So at any rate, we'll be talking about the virtual chapter more at the Western Show. So I don't know. Do you have any more, Sean? You got any good closing words for us?
I know, closing words. Yeah, no claims. No, we're very. I mean, I think, not to belabor this, but I mean, we're all on the same ship here. So yeah, if you got, unfortunately, bad actors on that ship, we all kind of sink together. So it's we just want to keep the tide going up.
Yeah, you're right. We're doing great on our claims here this contract period.
Phenomenally. Yeah. So yeah, it's been that last meeting was excellent. We have these quarterly meetings every 3 months, and same claim count, from the last meeting, which I think was great. Nothing new. So that's always a good thing. So I think everybody does exactly. And find some wood and knock on it. So
cool. Well, hey, you know what? I got to get to work, man. It's been raining here, so my pools are a mess. So anyway, Sean, I want to thank you for coming on here. This is great, and we're going to have you on more often because you're definitely our insurance expert, and Insurance questions come up all the time. And by the way, any member of UPA got an insurance question, call Sean. The guy's right on it. You know, if you can't take it, he'll return your call promptly, and he'll really help you out. And if you need him at chapter meetings, call him for that too, because he's always down to go to chapter meetings and talk to you guys. So,
yeah.
thank you, Sean. Thanks for taking time.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much. Great seeing you again. Yeah.
You too, buddy.
Yeah.
Good
Thank you, Sean.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening and watching, and hopefully we'll have Apple Podcasts up within the next week.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
And